Today I'm going to explain how to graph rational functions following some basic steps and get the answer that you want. Let's begin. Step number one is factoring and cancel if it's possible. So I'm going to do, so I can hear 3. There's nothing I can do with that, but I can work with the x to the second power minus 9. I can change this to x plus 3, x minus 3, okay? Even though we don't cancel anything, this is going to help you a lot with the vertical asymptotes. So this is going to be step number 1, factoring, cancel if you can, okay? Already did that. Number 2, find the vertical asymptotes. Vertical asymptotes is really simple because once you're done with factoring, you just take the denominator that you have left, the one that you already have, because maybe you did some cancel, right? So I'm going to do x plus 3 equals 0, x minus 3 equals 0. Solving for x, I realize that I have two vertical asymptotes, one in -3 and the other one in +3. So far, so good. We did this. The next one is horizontal asymptotes. Horizontal asymptotes, you have to check 3 basic rules with this. The first one is, what if the degree of the numerator is less than the denominator? That's the case over here, because you have degree 0, because this one doesn't have a degree and is 0, is less than degree 2. So when we have this case, the horizontal asymptote is y equals 0, okay? We did 1, 2, 3. We're going to do 7 steps. Step number 4. Step number 4 is finding the y-intercept. The y-intercept by definition is when x equals 0. What I'm going to do is the original, because it's going to be easier for me. Replace the x with a 0. 3, 0 to the second power minus 9. If you do this, it's going to be -3/9 or -1/3. Over here, I have the y-intercept. And then we have 5, X-intercept. The definition of X-intercept is this. We make the y is 0. Is kind of confusing because you don't have any y, but we know this represents the y. So we're going to do 0 equals 3x to the second power minus 9. We move this over here to multiply. So it's going to be x to the second minus 9 times 0 equals 3. 0 minus equals 3, like that. I know this is not true. This is not for real. So basically, we don't have X-intercept, none, okay? So that's step number 5. Step number 6. What I do usually in step number 6 is graph all the information that I already have. Let's begin. What do I have? Well, first, the vertical asymptotes. I have 3 positive, 3 negative, okay? Horizontal asymptote, y equals 0. Okay? What is next? Y-intercept, -1/3. So it's going to be something like really, really close to the 0 right there. And X-intercepts, we don't have any. What are we going to do next? I usually tell my students that we have to see this graph like you have part 1, part 2, and part 3. You have to graph this side, then this one, and then this one. I usually work with the sides and then I leave the center at the end. So I'm gonna do that over here. So let's begin. I have this, and I'm gonna use only 3 values because I just want to have an idea how it's gonna look like, okay? It doesn't have to be the whole graph. So I'm gonna work with a point really close to the asymptote. I'm gonna work with negative 3.5. The other point that I'm gonna use, let's say negative 5. And the last one, negative 7. I'm trying to get an idea of what it's gonna look like, the tendency. So if I replace over there 3 over negative 3.5 to the second minus 9. Okay, that's the way you have to replace. So you can get the values 3 divided by 3.5 to the second minus 9. And what I get over there is 0.9. 0.9. I'm going to graph right away. 0.9, so it's going to look something like this. Then with negative 5, it's going to be 3 divided by 5 to the second minus 9. I have 0.19. Yeah, it's really close. And then 3 divided by 7 to the second power minus 9. 0.0008. Really close over here. So the graph that we're going to get, I'm going to make this a little bit longer. It's going to look something like this without touching the vertical asymptote, because as you can remember, you never cross the vertical asymptote. If you get a graph that crosses that, you're wrong. So be careful with that. Okay, we'll continue from here. I'm going to do the other table right here. I'm going to use only 3 values. 3.5. Let's use 5 positive and 7. So if I begin to replace that, I'm going to get 3 over 3.5 to the second minus 9. And we're going to see that we get the same values over here. So we get 0.9, 0.19, and 0.08. How is that? Well, basically, look, 3.5 to the second minus 9. As you can see over here, we got rid of the negative because it was a second power, so it was negative and negative, positive. And here we're going to have positive, positive, positive. So we're going to have exactly the same values. How it's going to look like? Like this. Exactly the same shape. Okay, we're going to do the last part. That's the center of the graph. I've already picked my values. Negative 2.5 because it's really close to this asymptote. Then I'm gonna graph with negative 1. Then positive 1. I won't graph with 0 because I already have the value with the Y-intercept. Do you remember? Negative 1/3, negative 0.33. So positive 1, and then positive 2.5. I'm gonna replace, I'm trying to use the same values, negatives and positives, so I can just calculate it once and then I'm gonna copy the values. With negative 2.5, it's gonna be 3 over negative 2.5 to the second minus 9. going to use my calculator, and it's going to be 3 divided by negative 2.5 to the second minus 9. What I get is negative 1.09, okay? And this is going to be the same value for 2.5 positive. How do I know? Remember, because this is to the second power, and this is the only x that we have, negative and negative becomes positive as well. So we're going to have the same values. I'm going to work with the negative 1, and it's going to be 3 over negative 1 to the second minus 9. So 3 divided by minus 9. I get negative 0.38. Again, this is going to be the same value on the other side. If we graph this, what we're going to have, it's going to look something like this. Negative 1.09, really close to the asymptotes. Here, something like this. And if we connect the dots, the graph is gonna look like this. I'm gonna erase this so you don't get confused. And we have the three tables and our final graph.